Senator Rick Williams again. I gave you a video a few weeks ago of my front yard. This is sort of a sequel, you might say, of my backyard. So this is my side gate over here. And as you walk from the front yard, first thing we come to is this little area here. We've had it for years, didn't know what to do with it. And about 25 years ago, get my dog out of the way, Sammy, get. We made it into a little fish pond, a little goldfish pond. You see the fish in there. There were 2 of them until October, and then suddenly 5 more appeared. So it appears I had a mommy and a daddy fish. Now I've got 7 fish in there. Just to give this area a more tropical look, this is your standard old elephant ear here. It dives to the ground in the wintertime. I typically put a bag of leaves on it just to give it some protection. On the other side, these are umbrella plants. They grow real easy. I think they're technically a bog plant, but I grow them in the ground here, and they too die to the ground but come back every year very strong, and they are also a perennial. This little fish pond over here is nothing more than one of those 100-gallon Home Depot pre-molded black ponds. My son 25 years ago wanted a fish pond, and I said, if you'll dig the hole, I'll make the fish pond. So put the pond in there. It's got a little 3-bucket thing where water circulates. You got to have bubbles blowing to give them oxygen, and of course it's got some protection from the sun. This tree, by the way, is a redbud. My next door neighbor had a redbud tree, and the seed blew over here and started growing right here. So thank you very much, Tony. I appreciate that redbud tree with the plants. And anyway, it makes a nice little area by the house. You can see the windows, so you can look out and see the fish. Going down the path here to the right is a fiddle leaf fig. This is normally an indoor plant. In fact, we had it indoors for about 10 years, but it grew so prolifically it was too big for the house. So I've temporarily put it right here a few months ago, and I'm not finished yet. And so I put it here like a few months ago, and it's like a zone 10 plant. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do this winter. Maybe put some plastic along here just to give it some protection, and maybe milk it through the winter. It's not really an outdoor plant in this area, but I'm going to try to see if I can do it. All right, moving along to the back porch. These little white flowers over here, you'll probably recognize these are nothing but regular old impatiens. Now, most impatiens, when it gets hot in Texas, they will abort their leaves, but I found a lot of success by putting 3 little pots here with sort of a cool part of the patio, getting it water every day, and it's cool enough that they have thrived here. Typically, of course, they're annuals, but they have thrived here for several years. Along the back patio over here, you'll see Florida Moonlight caladiums. Every year I put about 6 of them in 4 little pots, and they just love this area. So I've learned that that's a place that they enjoy. Moving on, this is a springieri. People want to call it a fern, like the foxtail fern. This is technically an asparagus, and this is actually a iron thing that spirals down to like 5 little pots that go around here to make this little effect. It's actually flowering right now, even though typically you don't plant this for flowers, just foliage. Wintertime, it's sort of winter tender. I put it against the house, and it survives with blanket on it every now and then. But had this for a number of years. Then coming over here, this is a Kimberly Queen fern. It too sort of struggles in the wintertime, but I'll put it next to the house and kind of cover it up. It had some sort of dead fronds this spring, cut them off, gave it fertilizer, and it came back strong. I'm a big hanging basket guy. Hanging baskets are a bit of a pain in this part of Texas because it gets so hot. Now, typically what I'll do, I use these metal hangers or metal pots, and then put this furry stuff underneath it. This is known as a cocoa lantern liner, because cocoa liners come from a coconut tree. This furry stuff is actually coir, C-O-I-R, which which is the furry stuff that you'll see on the outside of a coconut. And if you go to the website talking about cocoa liners, they'll say just put the dirt in there and these liners will hold the water, yada yada yada. Don't believe that. If you put dirt directly in these cocoa liners, you better be prepared to water 3 times a day, because these things dry out in a hurry. So what I've done, you can see right here a bit of plastic, put a plastic shower liner inside the cocoa liner. So it's iron basket, cocoa liner, shower liner, and then potting soil. Had some real good luck this year with the plants. Every year I seem to try something new. This year I went to Callaway's in the spring, and they had a nice table set up with a variety of little interesting plants. This one right here has been especially successful. I never ever heard of it before. It is a variegated vine, sort of a succulent vine called Dorthianthus mezo. If you Google M-E-Z-O-O, you'll actually see this thing, but it's absolutely gone from a little 4-inch pot to just trailing all over the place. Come around this side. This is an Evolvulus Blue Days. At the Arboretum where I give tours, they plant Evolvulus everywhere. They have a different variety called Blue My Mind, B-L-U-E. And then more amazing, this is actually a lantana. Now you're probably asking yourself, what in God's name is a lantana doing in a hanging basket? But this is one called Dallas Red, which at maturity is 15 inches. So it's a small one, and it seems to be doing very well right now. Of course, that's a pepper I put in the middle. It's called Chili Willy. Doesn't really matter which pepper you use. Peppers are all pretty durable. And then the 5th thing I put in this basket is this euphorbia. You might recall in my front yard video, I talked about diamond frost euphorbia. This is a different euphorbia. Euphorbias are all great. They all have millions of white flowers. They're on the Texas A&M Superstar list if you go there, and they bloom and bloom and bloom. So when the smoke settled here, or smoke cleared, I have 5 different plants in this basket, and the one down here, see how well this is doing? More of the lantana. And the one here too. Now when I do buy baskets, this one is not very good. This one over here I like. You see this basket is about 8 inches deep. The deeper you get, the better, because that means you can put more soil in there and you can hold more water. And if I had my way, they would all be this deep. They're not, but just a little tip in case you want to do a hanging basket. Here's a good old red geranium that lasts every year. I like to kind of bring it in, protect it as well. And there's a little white geranium as well. Some basil and other little herbs down there. This little table is just full of a variety of succulents. I couldn't name one of them to save my life, but just gives a nice look, easy to care for. Some of these though are tender, so in cold weather I do bring some of them in. Moving on down to this area, this is a little triangular area. That purple stuff is oxalis. Oxalis is a perennial, dives the ground and comes back every year. In the spring has really, really pretty flowers. Some liripe along here. 3 pots with some more red caladiums. You can tell I'm a big caladium fan. And then coming on to the side of the house, it's sort of a scruffy looking area, but you can see that arbor down there with the other side gate, and that's a passion vine, which grows like just nothing grows faster than that. Every year I got a lot of Gulf fritillary butterflies on there and caterpillars, and so I cut it back, and then it comes back every year. All right, moving on, and speaking of butterflies, this is my certified monarch way station over here. This sign right here mentions monarchwatch.org. This is the sign they'll send you for $35. And if you have any interest in butterfly, Monarch Butterfly Garden, monarchwatch.org is the place. All the details, what it basically says is you need 3 varieties of flowers. You need an annual. So to the right over there, these are pentas. If you remember my front yard video, I love pentas. These are red ones with a few milkweeds that have grown from seeds. This, of course, is blue mist or Greg's mist. For 30 years, I knew this as Eupatorium Gregi, but somewhere in the horticultural world, there's an evil empire that changes the botanical names of flowers. So now this Coniniclium, or I can't pronounce the word, Gregi, but whatever it is, these things are absolutely prolific. They usually flop over, so this year I put some metal stakes with wires down there to kind of keep everything upright. Also very invasive, so you'll see down here I have a 2x4 to keep it from heading to the left and the right. But there is no easier perennial to grow. It will die to the ground and then come back like gangbusters every spring. Butterflies, as anybody who knows anything about butterflies knows, this is probably the #1 butterfly perennial anywhere. Now, the other requirement you have to have is milkweed. So monarchs, as you probably know, uniquely breed on milkweed. This bright orange over here, this is a native milkweed called Asclepias tuberosa, I believe. But most of the ones I have are these ones that are both orange and red, and they're the tropical milkweed. I know there are a lot of master naturalists that hate tropical milkweed because it's in the tropics and not here. But these things are quite prolific. And I have to throw some bags of leaves on them every winter, so they'll come back. The orange one will come back without any protection because we have some in our community garden. Okay. But that's that. All right, moving on. The pot over here. This is horsetail reed. Horsetail reed is, as you might know, is very invasive. So if you plant it, contain it, which is exactly why we have it in that pot right there. This one to the right, I planted it 30 years ago and don't know why it comes back every year. It's called a pineapple lily. You can see it shoots up these stalks this time of year that look like pineapples, and it grows, so I just keep it there. Moving on to some other parts of the yard. This is a little Japanese maple I have here. As you probably know, when you buy Japanese maples, almost 100% of them are grafted. You have the rootstock on the bottom and the scion, S-C-I-O-N, on the top. Well, this one was planted somewhere else in the yard. Tree got chopped down, the sun hit it, and the scion died. So what this is the rootstock that's growing. I have no idea what it is. I knew what the top was, but the top is gone. It's been there for 20 years and it's 2 feet tall. This is what's this kind of interesting down here. If you're interested in garden hoses, this is one of the things as seen on TV is called, I think, Bionic Pro steel hose. This thing works. This is stainless steel. The dog can't bite it. It doesn't kink, doesn't twist. And I've had it for about a month now, but I drag hoses all over the yard, and this thing is, believe it or not, actually works. This is an aspidistra, or a cast iron plant. I think my mother gave me those many years ago, and I just sort of stuck them there. They're a 100% shade plant. They don't like any sun whatsoever. And under this big old bodark tree, which was here when I got here, you will, it gets plenty of shade. This plant over here, this is a Aucuba variegata. There's 2 varieties of Aucuba. There's Pitulata and variegata. This is variegata. Shade-loving plant, does very well here. This is a Japanese Fatsia, sometimes called an Aurelia. A little winter tender. Sometimes the top will die back, but it quickly grows back in the springtime. This is some giant liripe they sell now, which is just something we stuck in there, and we shall move on. Now, this is the back end of the property. 40 years ago when I moved here, I didn't know squat about trees, so I planted a silver maple back here, one of the worst trees known to man. Cut it down about 5 years ago. So on the right is a chickapin oak, which is a great tree. I just wish I'd have planted it 40 years ago instead of 5 years ago. Next to that, you can see some more cast iron plants and abelia next to that. In the corner is a soft caress mahonia. Much prefer netherleaf mahonia. Soft caress seem to get damaged in the wintertime, and by the time it recovers, it's time for winter again. Big thing covering all at the wisteria. Absolutely gorgeous blue flowers every spring, and the only danger is that wisteria wants to grow in that tree, that tree, so I'm constantly cutting it back because wisterias can get huge. If you've ever been to the Arboretum, they have gigantic wisterias on huge pergolas, and they get very big. Finest little tree right here is a persimmon, a native persimmon. It has persimmon fruit about the size of a ping pong ball. The mother tree is a tall one. This one actually grew from a seed, but it's a great little tree. It gives us some protection in that seating area down here. And then have a little pond behind our house with lots of ducks. They're probably waiting for me to feed them corn. What do you say, girls? Anyway, that's sort of the backyard tour. You can see my yard all the way back up to the patio where it came from, all full of St. Augustine grass. I recognize this little gardening I have in my yard is not for everybody. If you're more into low maintenance and no fertilizer and no water plants, and there's some very good videos. I think Janet Smith put out one and some other ones. But if you're like me, you're into flowers, you like caladiums, and you like things like that, then these are the ones that I've been doing here for 41 years, and it's a labor of love, a little OCD